This week in 40K.
"25 days. Welcome to This Week in 40K 25 days. And I'm clearly thinking about 9th edition right now, 25 days, and not at all what's going on 25 days from now, 25 days. Good morning, Billy. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully. How are you?
I am great. I am, my favorite part of my life right now is waking up every morning and reading the faction previews.
The faction previews drop right about the time my daughter wants her first bottle of the day. Normally 6:30 in the morning would be a horrible time for me to wake up and would be destroying my sleep cycle. But if I get to sleep until 6:30 these days, it means I'm sleeping in. So yes, I am loving the faction focuses. My target is fewer days than that. It's however many days till the 10th, because that's when I think we'll be, rules NDAs come up and we'll be able to see everything, and I'll at least be able to garage hammer from there on out.
My God, I hope so, but I don't think so. I think there's too much. I don't know how you expect every index and the mission pack and everything to be dropped, and points and everything to be dropped at the same time from the NDAs. Maybe. I do know that the NDAs are what?
You put it in a Google Drive and you share that fucking link.
Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay.
But we will get the stuff over time. I also know that the NDA date is not one date. There are different things that expire at different times. I've also been told, now again, all of this is hearsay, except the 24th, which we just know is launch day. I know GW hasn't announced it yet, but the people that do know are not being quiet about it.
Yeah.
And if you look at June, there's like 17 reasons why till the 24th makes the most sense. Yeah, we just know when it's coming, and maybe we'll get all of the leaks earlier than that. Maybe we will, and then we'll see. Billy, this is a weird episode for me because I really only want to talk about 10th edition.
Well, the plan is to mostly talk about. I did too, and I thought that the only event that happened this week was BAO. Big event, really exciting.
Me too, actually.
My best 40K friend came in 4th place with a list that he and I have been working on for months. I wanted to talk about it. I'm like, I'll do the outline. There are 4 other 100+ person events. We're going to run through them. I looked at the lists. We will say the names of the players. We will give them their due. One guy brought an absolute wild card, but otherwise mostly 10th.
Okay. I think that's fair. And my guess is this will be the last episode where we talk significantly about 9th edition tournaments. I don't think there's going to be another big tournament between now and 10th, but maybe I'm wrong.
There's the KC Teams tournament next week.
Well, sure.
It's like hard to cover because it's not.
And the Pacific Northwest Teams tournament's the same weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have 2 team tournaments to cover. Maybe what we do for that is we have, I don't know. Never mind. I'm going to say a thing that I can't promise we can do, and I don't want to get people all in a tizzy about it.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to our top story, which is not Billy doesn't get enough sleep.
Our top story.
"25 days. What's the top story, Billy? 25 days.
The top story is that the full 10th edition rulebook is out in the wild.
Yes.
Very nice, high res, beautiful thing.
Not like before we said the full rulebook was out.
Yeah, but before it was most of the full rulebook, but there were pieces that we didn't have, and and the thing that I want to say about this, there are many different wonderful places you could go with this. This is the best rule book that GW has ever written by so much. It's like a different company got in charge of them. It is clear. It is concise. The examples have pictures attached to them. The blurbs know the corner cases people are going to try to cut and say, yeah, don't do that. Do it this other way. This is, I'm sure, as we play the game, because it's far too complicated to catch everything, we will find something that is problematic or not written well. As someone who spends most of his life going through documents trying to make them be better written, I have to sing GW's praises. This is an incredibly well-written rulebook.
Yeah, and I'll take it from a slightly different, yet shockingly similar point of view. I've done contract law as well a lot of my career, not as a lawyer, but as the person negotiating the contract. And so I've spent a lot of time reading contracts and technical instruction manuals, and I'm blown away by this. I was hype about 10th edition. I'm blown away by the quality of the rule writing and the data sheets as well. Universal Rules makes them incredibly easy to read, which is wonderful. I now, before I was worried about lethal versus devastating versus twin link. I was worried about all that. I have it all now. Like I just needed a minute of reading and thinking about it. Sustained hits make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got more hits. Devastating wounds makes sense, right? Anti-infantry makes sense. Like, it's all very straightforward.
Yeah.
And then the paragraph rules are clear.
Yeah.
They're clear. The data sheet special rules, which every unit seems to have, and they're very flavorful. They're also very well written. So I'm with you. Yeah. I think this is going to be one of the clearer editions of 40K, and we were already at a point where TOs were getting bored.
Yeah.
So,
the only thing I've seen people chat about with TOs is, and I have to dive into the terrain rules. There's apparently something with towering the giant monsters, seeing both directions depending on how the terrain piece works.
Okay.
That's the one thing I've seen, but I haven't paid that much attention to it. But yeah, the rules are out there. The new things, we have confirmation engagement range is 1 inch. So go back and reread all the combat stuff, knowing that for a fact. I think that's important. There's some updates on how planes work. They might have gotten planes right in a way that they're not horrible. I'm not willing to say that definitively. I'm just willing to say that potentially.
I want to talk about engagement range. Engagement range is 1 inch, but pile in and consolidate says that if you can touch them, you have to touch them.
Well, and that's the important thing, and that's where the shenanigans are probably going to come from in combat. This edition is the if you can, you must. So make sure that you can't. Make sure you can only do the thing that you want to do is going to be the new, all right, I'm a millimeter closer to this unit, so I pile in this way, and I get like 17 extra inches. That's going to be what we're going to have to figure out.
But there's not going to be that extra. I think they've done a good job of removing the additional movement that we were seeing.
Probably mostly, but I know I didn't see, pile in backwards towards objectives or block my model from piling in this way, so it has to go that way stuff. There are people out there, some of them on this network. Tyler and Lucas and Nick are going to tell me a bunch of things, and then I'm going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I see that now. Yeah.
And lots of those won't ever happen.
No.
There's a difference between finding the nuance and seeing the nuance at the table, but I'm with you.
Yeah. So
I think that the big difference for me is you can't just charge a unit to get 6 inches of extra movement out of it.
Correct. But because you can swing on any unit you're in engagement range with, not just the ones you declared as charge targets, you can declare the short charge target, roll the long ball charge target, successfully complete the short one, and then move most of your models so that they actually end up punching the far one.
Yeah. And you can't say I'm charging everything within, I'm charging this guy here, but I'm actually not going to end up at him. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. In 8th, it was charge everything within 12 inches. In 9th, it was charge only what you can hit. In 10th, it's charge just the closest thing. Nothing else matters. And they're going to be we're going to have to relearn a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm very excited. I have my launch weekend planned. We're going to stream some content, so that's going to be fun. But I think at the moment I have 6 people coming over, none of which are Billy because my life is sad.
Well, I live very far away.
What's that?
I live very far away.
You really don't.
Well, I live very far away when I have a 7-week-old child.
There you go. That's the actual reason. So yeah. Let's move on to what's new.
What's new?
$25 days. So we're going to talk about armies.
Yes. Do you want to just go in chronological order of list of article release?
Sure.
Orcs.
Wog! Okay.
That was one of the least unpleasant laws I've ever heard.
Well, I was trying to keep it low because it's 7 o'clock in the morning and people are asleep.
Yes.
I think that it's important to note two things. I believe without any argument that orc players are the most enthusiastic about their faction of any player.
Mm-hmm.
Second, 40K is good when orcs are good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to be broken, but when they're bad, it's sad. Everyone wants to play against orcs. Orcs, we want to see orcs on the table. They have fun models. They do fun things. They have great names. So I was extremely, even though I don't play orcs, this is one of the faction focuses that I was most waiting for. Because I think there are certain, what's the word? Foundation? No.
Pillars.
What's that?
I would say pillars of the game.
Yeah, pillars, but I was thinking like foundation. Yeah, like there's certain pillars of 40K that tell us a lot about what the game's going to be like. And we got several of those this week, to be honest. I was extremely anxious to see Thousand Suns and Grey Knights, both of which we saw this week. I was very anticipatory of Genestealer Cult for the same reason, and of Orcs. Why these four armies? Orcs, because it tells us what Horde close combat is probably going to be like, right? Like, this is the iconic Horde close combat army. Yes, Tyranids do that as well, but we already saw the Tyranid preview, and they didn't really talk about Hordes very much.
No.
Thousand Suns, because the psychic phase was completely removed. So what are they going to do with an all-psychic army? Grey Knights, for the same reason. How are they going to balance the mobility for Grey Knights? And oh dear good Lord. and then Genestealer Cult, because I think that Genestealer Cult is like, if you're ranking difficulty of codex to write for GW, right? Marines is the easiest one. Just give them all the straightforward broken rules. And then as you go through the other factions, when you get to Genestealer Cult, that's where all the T3 janky strategy BS has to go.
Yep.
Right? Like Genestealer Cult has never been able to hang out and shoot with you or hang out and punch with you without any tricks, because they're simply too fragile for that. So we have some really important codexes here that I think are starting to, we're missing a lot, right? We don't have context. We don't have whole codexes, but things are beginning to fall into place for me, Billy. I'm beginning to see how it all fits together. How about you, before we talk about the individual factions?
Yeah, I completely agree. I will say I've had one base heuristic for this entire evaluation process, which has been, is anything going to be better than Bobby and Double Oath? I've seen some things that I think are very good and some things that will make people very happy. I personally have yet to see anything that feels on that power level. But to your point of all those different armies stand for those different propositions, and did they give us enough to get a sense of how that part of the game is going to work? Yes, absolutely. And they did it the way that I enjoy playing 40K. So yeah. I'm not saying that they're batting 100% because I have a few nitpicks, but they're batting like 98% in terms of, this is the way I would like 40K to turn out.
Yeah. The Genestealer Cult rules are amazing, except that I'm deeply, deeply disappointed by something, and we'll talk about it. So, starting with Orcs. Now that we've put context around everything. So Orcs, first of all, the WOG, right? Once per battle, call the WOG. Everybody gets to advance in charge. Everyone gets +1 strength and attacks. Everybody gets a 5 up invul. That's incredibly similar to what the WOG is today. The significant change here is you have to call it at the beginning of the battle round.
Right.
So if you go second, you have to decide if you need it on your turn, on your opponent's turn. People are making a big deal about this, Billy. Personally, I don't think it's actually that big of a deal. I think what it's doing is allowing you to have the 5 up invul if you go second on turn 1. And I think I think that's important enough that the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yet, it would be better if you could call it on your player turn because you could see the whole story. I'd love to have Lucas here to talk about this.
I'm sure
But
we will.
I'm sure, what's that?
I'm sure we will not have to wait long to get his take on this.
Yeah, so that's my take on the log. Is I actually think that it's a buff to let you pick it at the start of the battle round.
Are people disagreeing with that?
Yeah, people are upset that you have to call it on your opponent's turn.
Oh, okay.
The internet is not happy about this, Billy.
Oh, I thought this was just straight up better.
No, it's not from their point of view.
Okay, if you're only using it for the first 2 bullet points, I agree. But the third bullet point is probably the most powerful part of all of it, and this makes that part so much better.
I agree.
Okay.
And then their detachment rule is everybody gets sustained hits 1 in melee.
Which is great. Can I actually just say one thing, pulling back to something you said about orcs?
Yeah.
You said the game is better when orcs are good. I agree.
Yes.
When orcs are good like this, not when orcs are the broken lotto machine of their vehicles.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
There are ways to make orcs absolutely miserable, and no one, including orc players, want to play with them.
Well,
this looks like the right way for orcs to work.
Yeah, the 9th edition Orc Codex is, you could easily argue, in fact, we should do this, we should have this conversation about what is the worst written codexes in 9th edition. We don't need to talk about that right now, but Orcs is one of them. Yeah. They failed really hard on that book. They didn't make synergies. They didn't put good stratagems in. The stratagems that are in there are too expensive. Like, that book is not good. The only reason we saw Orcs overperform is because of, well, I mean, they're performing now. But I mean, earlier in 9th edition, the only reason Orcs were performing is because of the wildly not okay vehicle data sheets. And there was nothing else. Yeah. Now they've gotten buffed enough, and they've had the WOG added, right? They gained this WOG, basically, the one from 10th edition. Mm-hmm. And now Orcs are much better. But the book was a massive failure, I think.
Yeah. Just finishing up this preview, we get to see what Beast Snagaboys look like. I don't know enough to know if these are better. I've heard someone say they are. Yay. Gaz gets previewed. Gaz is more in the Abaddon size and style than the Gilliman and Swarmy. He is a leader, just like Abaddon, I believe. So
it's like Swarmlord.
Is Swarmlord a leader, not a lone operative?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay, interesting. So Bobby's the only one that's not a leader.
You're really stuck on Bobby.
I am
talk about Bobby all the time.
I think he is a defining part of 10th edition, and I am happy to be proved wrong. But and then some.
I'm just going to be clear. If Bobby is in 50% of Space Marine lists, I'm going to bitch.
Okay.
50% is where I'm putting the line. And the reason I'm putting it there is because he is not interesting enough. He is bland as hell. And so are Ultramarines. He is not interesting enough to be an auto-include. That is boring. Give me an auto-include that's more interesting. Have it be Russ on his sleigh. Give me an auto-include that's more fun.
Well, don't put Russ on his sled because that's the silly and stupid thing that they have Logan Grimnar doing. But give me Russ. Give me Russ, and I won't touch Bobby even if the rules are shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said the wrong thing. Yes, Logan, of course.
Anyway, let's finish up with Orcs. They gave us some weapons with just really silly giant numbers.
It's true.
And then there's they get a fight on death and a +2 to advance and charge strat. So the Orcs, the way Colin and I think Orcs are good, Green Tide, run at you, kill you before you kill them. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, our first super psyker faction. Wait, that Colin, that was Eldar. No, not really.
No, not from what they showed us.
No, the fate dice, yes. But not like from what we've seen, we haven't seen like
riff on
Doom.
them. I need to grab my baby. I will be right back within.
Yeah, you're fine. We haven't seen like Doom, right? And we haven't seen the level of psychics that Thousand Sons are, right? They're a psychic focused army. How are they going to work in a game that doesn't have psychics? So, first of all, at the start of your turn, you get Cabal points, much like they do right now. And you get them based on how many psychers you have on the table, just like right now. Then you have a crazy number of things that you can do that are all neat. You can reroll a saving throw for 2 points. you can. I'm trying to remember these without having to read them, but that's not working out for me. Let's see. Normal move. Like there's just a bunch of stuff here. My favorite one is 9 Cabal points. And it makes it so that you select an enemy unit within 18 and visible of the Psyker until the end of the phase. Armor saving throws cannot be made for models in that unit. I love that for 9 Cabal points. So, and then Doom Bolt is 7, which is just blam, bunch of mortals. So that's an actual offensive spell. Neat. So that's really powerful. The Cabal points are really good. All of the things they're talking about here are powerful. All of them feel like psychics. Every single one of these feels like a psychic thing that's happening. So that's super cool. Kindred Sorcery is basically in your command phase, you select one of these things for the turn. And it's psychic weapons get lethal hits, psychic weapons get sustained hits, or psychic weapons get devastating wounds. The problem with this is that from the preview we've seen, there aren't very many psychic weapons.
No.
And the people that have been playing Thousand Suns a long time do not believe there will be a lot of psychic weapons based on what they've seen.
Yeah.
So this rule feels like a mess to me.
Mm-hmm.
I blow my nose. Talk about Thousand Suns, Billy.
I caught the last half of that. The army rule, which doesn't have a name. That's interesting. It feels like psychic abilities, but psychic abilities that always go off, which is very nice for really everyone. It's not. I always enjoyed winning games when my opponents failed their psychic spell, but it always felt sort of like a cheap win.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that here, and there are some very, very, very powerful things in here. Do we know you can only do these? No, you can redo these.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I still don't think they matter. The Kindred Sorcery thing, like they matter a little bit.
No. I mean the spells that aren't.
Oh yeah, you can do those as much as you want. You just need Cabal
just
points.
Doom Bolt 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. What that means is that army composition for Thousand.
No. Each ritual can only be used once per phase.
Oh, it does say that. Okay,
yeah.
Never mind. Still, I think army composition for Thousand Suns is going to be very interesting because. Like the Cabal point, they say Cabal points are look like they're probably similar. I think that's more someone reverse engineering it, but I think now most armies end up with like high teens, and that's enough for 2 of the big ones and maybe the 2. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if we end up with like 30 Cabal point armies, if that's even possible.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's my main thing. Ahriman looks neat.
Oh, yeah. Yep, he does.
Rubric Marines look like they lost a lot of their AP, which was kind of their defining offensive thing, and they lost all his dust, so they're kind of squishy.
They're literally just Primaris Marines.
Well, they have a final bin home, I guess.
Okay, fine. Yeah. But they're just Marines now. Yeah. Like, where's all his dust? Like, where's their most iconic special ability? Instead, they have Bringers of Change, which, sounds like a Zinch thing, so fine. But rerolling ones to wound and shooting, fine, right? And then you can reroll the full wound if they're within range of an objective marker, right? That's dope. That's super cool. That's very powerful, honestly.
Yeah, but a lot of data sheets get stuff like that. A lot of troops are getting rules very similar to that.
Yeah.
They did say that. First, Mutilith Vortex Beast gets what appear to be good guns.
Yeah, God, I want these on the table so bad.
They're
so neat, and I've never seen them be popular.
Yeah, and they can double the range of those rituals, which are the spells. I don't know. Mutilith Vortex Beast meta seems fun. Let's bring that on. Throw this back in my face when it's toxic and horrible and no one enjoys it, but whatever.
I don't know what survivability needs to look like. For you to have vehicles on the table or giant monsters, I don't know what their survivability needs to look like. It sure feels like the game is violent. So we'll see. Yeah.
They get a stratagem that's like crazy good psychic defense, which is sort of weird for the army that wants to do the psychicking to be really good at defense on it versus offense, but whatever. And then there's a blurb saying that Magnus is a crazy busted data sheet, but we don't get to see it.
Okay. I don't think Feel No Pain Against Mortal Wounds is as good as it used to be, because I don't think that they're going to be as common in such big amounts. But, still good to have it, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that Chuck always says when we play Eldar versus Thousand Sons is he always says, oh, right, because Eldar are the actual Super Psychers.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that that's not going... I don't think it's going to feel that way anymore. I don't think we're going to sit down at the table and Chuck's going to feel like every bit of psychic rules for Eldar are just better than Thousand Sons, which is how, like Chuck has wanted the Farseer psychic table in Thousand Sons or Chaos for 1,000,000 years. It's been the best table for a long time.
Yeah. Guy, Doom, and Fortune are just...
and Executioner!
Yeah. Well, because what Eldar psychics are is... dropping into the fluff. So tell me to shut up as soon as you want. But it's like they're manipulating fate. They're not necessarily even manipulating the warp as much. So changing it to fate dice where you're just making things happen as opposed to tapping into this power resource. Like it's more reliable, potentially less spiky in power, but guaranteeing things to happen. And then you throw it into a dice game and that's just better.
Yeah. By the way, Gerard says that he's in the Netherlands.
Hello,
so that's
Gerard.
neat. And that it's early here. Yes, we do this show at 7 a.m. I'm not currently working, so 7 a.m. is not as fun for me. However, Billy gets up early for a baby anyways.
Yes. She's very cute.
Well, she's a baby, and they're all weird looking, but yes.
Fair. Next up, Grey Knights.
Billy's really trying to keep us going here.
There's a lot to talk about, and I'm not going to get into a fight over the cuteness of my baby on live internet television.
No, your baby's cute. Everybody knows it. Okay.
Grey Knights?
Yeah.
You want to talk about Grey Knights. You enjoy Grey Knights.
Yeah. I think that how do you make Grey Knights feel different than Thousand Sons, right? You don't want them to just be Marine Thousand Sons.
Right.
So I think they've done a good job of that. So at the end of your opponent's turn, every turn, you could pick up a number of your units and put them back into reinforcements and bring them in 9 inches away from your opponent on your next, at the end in your next reinforcement step.
Mm-hmm.
You could do 3 of them because it's a 2,000 point game. You can remember they're adding a lot of this. So notice this. Be very careful if it says at the end of your opponent's turn. Mm-hmm. That is a new thing that they've added all throughout 10th edition. And what that allows you to do is see the entire scope of your opponent's turn, plan your next turn, and decide if you need to do that. There is no information between you picking these up and you putting these down that your opponent is controlling. So
not totally true. There's Overwatch.
Okay. Well, sure, fine. But the point is, you get to see your entire next turn and decide if you want to use this, and you can use it every turn, and you can use 3 units. Mm-hmm. This is so incredibly powerful that it's nuts. Mm-hmm. Late game in particular, just free pickup and drop on objectives is incredible. Right? This unit's over in the corner of the table because they killed an MSU enemy unit and took an objective. Well, up and down. Now they're over on this objective. Like it's really, really neat. It's a fun army rule to give them. I'm concerned that it's going to feel terrible for people to play against, but we'll see.
I think you add this to when we get to GSC, being able to be in lots of places on the board all at once to prevent deep strike shenanigans is a thing that I think is going to be a skill we're going to learn, or just a downside you're going to have to accept that your army can't deal with.
And characters being in units actually changes that. So in Eldar, I would regularly use characters in my backfield, either 3 inches for something or just behind a wall against an army that doesn't have indirect.
Yeah.
And I would use them as 18-inch no deep strike bubbles.
Yep.
My Farseer on bike in particular, with how fast he's been, has driven all over the table to stop deep strike. So I think that characters being in units will make that different, but we'll see. Every single Grey Knight has the deep strike ability. That's cool. Start whatever you want in deep strike. What's this shunt again?
They just automotive.
Oh, right. That's right. when they just auto advance 6, the whole army, all the time. Okay.
They're fast.
Yeah. Crazy so. Then they talked about the Purgatation squad, which fine, right? They have indirect fire on their guns. That's super neat. But their guns are 24-inch range, so they have indirect fire, but they have indirect fire where one of their psychers, which is everyone in the army, has to see it. That's a way of doing indirect fire that I actually like.
Yeah, spot fire takes a lot. It doesn't obvious.
We're losing Billy, folks.
Oh, fuck. Am I back?
Hi.
Hi, I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Having a spotter have to be there doesn't make you effectively play on Planet Bowling Ball. The problem with infinite range indirect.
Right. Grandmaster Nemesis Dreadnought. I think he's particularly cool because of your ability to spend stratagems on him cheaper. But he also can just be like, I wreck monsters and vehicles in combat. And I think that's neat. He's only T8, which is kind of wussy now for a vehicle. That's worse than a Rhino, which he's always been. But, 2 up, 4 up, maybe he'll be fine. He appears to not have -1 damage, so like a ton of the defensive stuff just seems to be gone, Billy. Let's see. Purifying Flame. Is there anything else we want to talk about here? You can make your units not targetable by over 12 inches away with a stratagem. They can make their melee weapons better. Yeah, it's just mostly the mobility is a big thing with Grey Knights.
Yeah, and I'm back.
Welcome back, Drukhari. We are okay. I have a lot of armies, and I have made the Colin flowchart of what Colin plays. Now, the what Colin plays flowchart says, if this army is powerful, I play this before continuing down the list. And it goes Craft Rolled Eldar, Tyranids. Okay, those are the top 2. Drukhari. Drukhari is literally 3rd on the list. I love my other armies, but man, do I like dudes in boats that are fragile. I just love it. I love dudes in boats jumping out to do things. So I was extremely hyped to read these rules. I had heard no leaks of any kind about them. I didn't have any idea what was coming. So they've added this power from pain mechanic. And one of the things that GW is doing is it's giving an additional currency to armies, right? Sisters and Eldar both have dice currency. Thousand Suns has Cabal points. Like they're giving some armies like, here's an additional thing you track that are fun to spend. And I think that that's incredibly neat. So the way that it works for Drukhari is you start with 3 pain tokens. Every time you kill a unit, you get 1. Every time your opponent fails a battle shock test, you get 1. That's really cool because I think battle shock tests are going to be a lot more frequent than morale tests are today. And so you get these tokens, right? And by the way, there's a way for your characters to get you more.
Yep.
But you get these tokens. And then at the beginning of a phase, you spend it on a unit. And that unit can, if it's the movement phase, it can reroll the advance. If it's the charge phase, it can reroll the charge. If it's the shooting phase, it can reroll your hits. And if it's the fight phase, it can reroll your hits. I love this, Billy. This is perfect. This is a currency that you get as a Drukhari player that allows you to pick where really matters, right? Where on the table this turn is really, really the important thing. I have to take down this unit. Like you've talked about how excited you are about Oath of Moment. This is better than Oath of Moment. Like, I understand that the whole army gets to focus and reroll hits and wounds. Like, I get that. That's great. The reason I say, and this isn't just better than Oath of Moment. I was saying that for impact. So if you're screaming at your car stereo while you're driving to work, I'm sorry. What my point is, you can do this in 4 different places on a turn. The fact that you start with 3, you get more from your characters, and you get some when people fail battle shocks, and you get some when you kill things. Especially against MSU, you're going to have a lot of these, and you can literally have a go turn where your whole army is rerolling hits in the shooting and combat phase. And I think that is just really, really super neat. So I'm very hype about that. So if we're looking at the Colin flowchart, absolutely adore the Craft World Eldar preview. I love the Tyranid preview, especially the new models, and I love the GSC or the Drukhari preview, and we haven't even gotten to Gene Silicol yet. So each of the characters that you have, an Archon, a Succubus, or Homunculus, you get an additional pain token each turn for each of them.
Start of the battle, not each turn. I read it as each turn too, and now looking at it here, it's just one.
Well, that's because it says at the start of the battle, and we both optimistically read at the start of the battle round. Venoms are very similar to what they do today, other than they have a built-in rule on them that people can get back into them. That's neat.
Very, very importantly, they seem to they still have. They have a 6-up in Mullen as opposed to the 5-up.
Which is not good, but they are still -1 to be shot.
Right. They stayed T6 in a world where a lot of vehicles got tougher.
Yeah, no, I think that they're fragile as all paper.
Yes.
And also interesting. Janky. What's that?
They're way jankier.
Are they?
The back in at the end, like that's a CP stratagem that they just hand out as an aura.
Yeah, but you're getting back into paper.
But
I really think that the durability on this is pathetic. Okay. I think you're going to find that Venoms explode when people shoot at them. But we'll see. We're running out of time.
Really quickly explode. That's an important change in the rule book that we didn't have. We got the full transport rules. When you get out and you roll a 1, you don't.
God, Billy, your internet. When you get out and you roll a 1, you don't die. Is I think what Billy's saying. I didn't know that. I haven't noticed that in the rules, but Billy's trying to drop a truth bomb. I'm going to finish talking about Drukhari, whether he comes back or not, because we don't have a lot of time. So another interesting thing is that Kabalah Warriors. Sorry. Venom's combat squad things. So one of the things that we haven't talked about a great deal on the show is that they have changed it so that you don't take variable amounts of models and units. I mean, you sort of do. Tyrant Guard and Hive Guard looks like they're going to be 3 or 6. They're not previewed. I don't know that. I'm just trying to give you an example of what we're seeing. Marines, heavy Marine units will be 3 or 6. Primaris Marines, like Intercessors, will be 5 or 10. Kabalites are 10. You get 10 Kabalites. Here's how much they cost. So in that world, how do you then put them into Venoms? Well, Venoms actually battle squad them for you. Venoms say, oh, that's fine. You have a Venom and you have 10 Kabalites. Well, then you can put just 5 Kabalites in the Venom and leave the other 5 on the table. That is a really interesting way to resolve that. I actually think that it's funny that we can't have like 7 Kabalites anymore. But the game is so much simpler by having default unit sizes. And it also matches the boxes. It's just, I'm all for that. Kabalah Warriors can basically have sticky objectives, lots of things with objective control, lots of battle line things are getting rules like that. One thing I noticed in here is, like most armies, they've made the heavy weapons just have worse battle shock is what I was going to say, below 6 skill. So like Dark Lances hit on 4s unless you don't move, and then they hit on 3s. I don't love that at all because I think that heavy shooting is going to be required. Maybe there'll be some more jank to this, but it is good to see Dark Lances be strength 12, AP 3, D6 plus 2. I think that the Dark Lance is a really important part of the Drukhari toolkit. They're so close combat focused and poison focused that they desperately need heavy weapons to deal with that situation. Finally, you've got, what does poison look like now? It's still anti-infantry. Splinter cannons have AP, splinter rifles don't. That made me sad. I think no AP makes guns really hard to use. People aren't going to have 2-ups as frequently, so maybe it's fine. Anti-infantry wounding on 3s instead of 4s is a really good improvement to poison. that is a rule that often feels bad. But wounding everybody on 3s when you have a notorious, like a historically strength 3 weapon, I think that's actually cool. It doesn't have AP on it, so you're just going to like hose down people with shots and hope it works out. Fine. Haywire Blaster, nothing really to talk about there. Lilith having sustained hits 2 and anti-infantry 2 plus on 8 attacks is funny. 1 damage is less funny. Let's see.
Am I back?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I'm on my phone.
Okay. You can also use a CP and a Power from Pain token and give all 3, an Archon, a Succubus, and Homunculus, give all 3 of them the Power from Pain enhancement for that turn. I think that's cool, and that's really Drukhari. Guys, let me tell you something. I will play Drukhari on launch weekend, and I will tell you all about it. I love them. If anyone's curious how the flowchart goes, it's Craft Rolled Eldar, Tyranids, Drukhari, and then Genestealer Cult. I had hoped that there would be Jank, and oh dear God. All right, I'm going to limit myself to 5 minutes here, Billy, and then we're going to talk about tournaments for 10 minutes. Is that okay, or do you want me to do?
You have your fun with your Genestealer Cult. You've been planning this for 1,000 years.
It's true. This codex is literally a generation in the making.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of people have read this and don't understand. So I'm going to call on it for all of you. Okay, explaining complicated topics for a living. Literally my job. Okay, when a Genestealer Cult unit dies, you put out a blip. There you go. There's a blip on the table. Okay, that almost certainly happened in your opponent's turn, right? Your entire turn goes by. Okay, now your opponent's turn happens. At the end of your opponent's movement phase, I believe it is. Is it end of turn or is it movement phase?
Kind of move.
End of move. Okay.
Well, charge, pile in, consolidate.
What? That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
When you actually get the stuff back?
Oh, when you get it back? At the end of the reinforcement step of your opponent's next movement phase. That's when
Thank you. Okay. So shooting phase of your opponent's turn, they kill your unit. You put a blip out somewhere during your opponent's reinforcement phase of the following turn. So full battle round from now. If no enemy unit has come within 9 inches of that, you get it back. Now you get this blip on a 4-up for most units. You get it on a 2-up for battle line.
I think you just get it for battle.
Ones always fail. It says that in the rules. So I'm presuming that matters here.
Okay.
Because they did specify that ones always fail, but maybe that's only for shooting, wounding, and saves.
Yeah. Why write it as +3 and not just as +2?
Because there's other rules that modify it further.
Okay, that would make sense.
So, first of all, your opponent can move and end it, but they're only moving one time because they only have one movement phase most of the time between these two things happening. This is an incredible thing because you lose so much of the game, right? A full battle round is a fifth of the game, we think, right? Do we know that the game is 5 turns? Let's not get distracted. It's a full fifth of the game. So like they're gone for a while and you have to put them somewhere back, right? Or you have to be very careful where you put them. This is high risk, high reward. This is strategy. This is jank. This is a great way to make a horde army feel like hordes as you kill them. Love it, love it, love it. When they come in from deep strike, they get sustained hits 1 and ignore cover. They get it both in shooting and in close combat. Brood Brothers, you can have up to 500 points of guard. I'm trying to go quickly so we can talk about tournaments. Neophytes, if they're on objectives, there's a 4 on a 4-up, you get a CP. Neophytes come back. You get D3 plus 3 of them back, I think, every turn. Yeah. If they're on an objective marker, that's certainly cool. We're presuming that Neos come in 10s and 20s. It doesn't say that here. Their guns look fine. I like the seismic cannon, Billy. being 4 attacks, strength 6, AP1, D3, with rapid fire 2. So, 8 seismics, I think is what that means. Is pretty darn neat at 12 inches when they come in from deep strike and they're ignoring cover.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Other cool things there as well. The Patriarch is not the final thing I'll talk about. The Patriarch is super cool. He has deep strike, infiltrator, and leader. Put him in a unit, put him out in the middle of the table, or bring him in from 9. He makes that unit have devastating wounds. We haven't seen what he can go with, so we don't know. Maybe he can go with aberrants, and they have multi-wound weapons. We don't know what that's really going to do.
Right. Attach him to a unit of pure strain gene stealers. So
I'm sure. I promise you, 150% that he can go with gene stealers. He's literally a gene stealer. He's not literally a gene stealer, but I'd be shocked if he can't. And we think the gene stealers have scout moves, so it's all interesting here. He does have twin linked, punchy like he has now. He does 2 damage instead of 3. My sadness here, his only psychic power really is that he makes people around him take a battle shock in the fight phase. This is not a psyker. This is my big criticism. This is not a psyker. There's nothing. He's holding fingers to his brain like he's going to brain you. There's no brain here. There's no offensive magic spell. He gives his unit devastating wounds, whatever. That doesn't feel like psychic to me. He makes people around him scared. That doesn't feel like psychic to me either. So kind of disappointing. Demo charges, I think, are going to be a key part of the army because a lot of their shooting is going to be low strength. So you're going to need the strength 12, D6 plus 3, ballistic skill 2, demo charges that are AP 2 damage. I think you're going to have those all throughout the army. And so you're going to get these kind of once a game, but these kind of sudden bursts of heavy damage to heavy targets. I think that's going to be a big deal. The hammer looks great for the aberrants. I'm trying to go quick here. You can have any unit be +1 to wound against an enemy unit for 2 CP. And you can come in 3 inches away, but you can't charge, just like now, for 1 CP, which is incredible, by the way. The fact that that's 1 CP and you can do it every turn makes me so excited that I want to talk for an hour about it. Okay. Off we go.
Mm-hmm.
Tournaments. I'm not even going to do the what's winning. That's how short on time we are. I don't have BCP, so it's down right now for me. The GT Andorra and Open Ordino had 176 players in Ordino, Spain. Someone named Raven has won with World Eaters. Second place is Cuervo Marcos with Dark Angels. Ivan Andres probably with Orcs. And Manuel Tula with Yanari. I'm sorry I can't talk about any of these lists. We don't have time. The Spain meta is usually fascinating. I wish we could talk about these. Good job to the 4 of you. I want to make sure that Billy gets to talk about BAO. So, Billy, talk about BAO.
BAO takes place 20 minutes from where I live. I have signed up for it 5 of the past 6 years and managed to go to a grand total of 0 of them because life has gotten in the way every single time. But many of my friends are going into round 5. I think, I'm in chats with 6 of the people who are in the top 10 of the event. And my number 1 practice partner, Trent Wheeler, came in 4th, but we'll finish with him. Forrest Fanton, who's been tearing up Northern California with good Space Wolves, MSU Space Wolves, took 1st place. He did it in a mirror match against Linton, your guy's best Space Wolf player. They Space Wolfed off, and turns out MSU is better than 30 Wolfen in the mirror, just because you can shoot the Wolfen. But I have to imagine that was a sort of hysterical game.
By the way, I have to apologize. I said that I didn't think Space Wolves were one of the best Space Marine chapters when we got 9.5. Formally apologize, Space Wolf players. You clearly are monsters that are wrecking people.
Yeah, because you know what's winning? Other than that GT Andorra, the other 400+ person events are won by Space Wolves.
I know.
So, really what it is Desolation Marines in Space Wolves. You can do a big brick of them, put some senses on, and they're just obnoxious. They're not elsewhere, and that solves a huge problem with Space Wolves. Anyway,
I need to correct two things that we said earlier that are wrong. You were gone when I was talking about people getting out of transports when they blow up. You take mortal wounds rather than models dying. That's great because if you have heavier targets in there, you can have them to absorb the mortals.
Mhm.
Super cool. You also could technically have the character die and absorb all the mortals for the unit if that's what you were into. And then rapid fire does not double the shots; it adds that many shots. The seismic cannon is 4 shots that moves to 6 within 12. I was using old rapid fire brain.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Billy.
James Carmona brought a World Eaters army that was weird. It had a Land Raider, it had a Termite, and it had 3 War Dogs. The rest was standard, but he brought some interesting transport choices. William Abelez brought Tau, Ghost Keel, Sun Shark, and a Tidewall gun ring in his army. So those were some choices. And then just because, again, I play more 40K against Trent Wheeler than anyone else, and he brought a CSM list that I've been sort of out of the side of my mouth saying for months now is actually good. And 4th place at a 152 player event suggests that there's something to that. So Word Bearers being able to reroll all hits in the first round of combat is very powerful. And they have a relic that turns off all rerolls, hit and wound in an aura in melee. You put the 2 of those together, and you don't want to touch these guys. On top of that, everyone put the black rune on Terminators, -1 to wound. But when you put that on a T5 possessed unit that has a 4+ invul from Cursor, you end up with a shockingly durable thing, especially when you can't do any rerolls into it in melee.
Yeah.
The real trick was, you want to know the best place to take Plague Marines? Word Bearers. Because they can sit in that bubble of no rerolls and get the Trans-Hitman prayer off. A Trans-Hitman Plague Marine takes 4 Melt-A-Gun shots to kill 1 of them. The math on this army is ridiculously skewed from what you expect. You think you know how to kill all these units, and then you play against Trent's version, and it's like playing against Custodes. He's been playing this army for months now. He knows how it works incredibly well, and other than the fact that when he went up against a Catan, Brass Scorpion, and Lord of Skulls, and then failed to wound them with the Melt-A-Guns on his knights over 5 rounds, he did incredibly well in this event.
Sounds like Linton's strength.
Best result, of anyone in my local meta that I'm aware of, honestly.
Honestly, Tyler or Lucas would have been higher if they hadn't been forced to play each other.
Yeah, that's true. But so what? And even Trent admitted that Tyler and Lucas, had harder paths. Trent said he played good players. There were some named players that he managed to dodge. But at the end of the day, this was a fun, what the heck is going on with this army that actually bore out, and I wanted to give him his due. This is like if...
I don't know who had final weekend of big tournaments for 9th edition. Space Wolves wins everything on their bingo card. But good job.
Yeah.
So just read some names and some armies real quick. Let's give people shout outs for winning big tournaments, but we don't need to talk about lists.
Yeah. So Motor City Mayhem, 146 players. I assume Novi is near Detroit. Brad Chester won with Space Wolves. James Cullen came in second with Ulthway. He brought Irilith, which is the Forge World Phoenix Lord. It's a fun model.
I think that the Alea Talk Sniper is who that is, right?
No, that's the Phoenix Lord that's from the Forge World Aspect Warriors.
Okay. I'm with you now. Go ahead.
Riley Corbett took Custodes, and Sam Procopio took Blood Angels. So that's Murderer's Row of an event.
Three people there that are top players in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't know Riley Corbett. He may be one as well.
Yeah. Bayern Munich 40K, 112 players in Munich, Germany. Grisha Gerwart took Space Wolves. Kevin Zollinger brought Black Templar Parking Lot, 7 Impulsors, and 5 Gladiators.
Amazing.
What
a Chad.
Yeah, that's fun. Thomas Butcher brought Goths, and Martin Wynn brought Dark Angels. And then the Rocky Top Rumble, 106 players in Knoxville, Tennessee. Mark Perry brought Space Wolves. So they're good enough to get Mark Perry off of Chaos. Kyle Perry, as opposed to Perry, brought Ulthway. Ryan Kerr brought World Eaters, and Brandon Valley brought Dark Angels.
Okay. I want to hear in the last few minutes of the show, what is Billy's flowchart for armies that get played?
Non-gunline craft world, melee. I actually wrote this in the Discord. Melee Marines, Drukari, any flavor of craft world, Slaneshi based chaos, so on from there. Basically, I want something that's fast and glass cannon. And if it's durable too, that's great. But I want the fast and the glass cannon are requirements.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I want to focus on. I'm looking for work right now. I was part of the big tech layoffs, and so I'm trying not to buy models, which is very hard for me because I love buying models. My favorite is to buy them and put them on a shelf over there and not do anything with them. I really enjoy that. That's also how I collected board games for a lot of years. I have a lot of board games I've never played. But I just wanted to say that as I look through the armies and I prioritize, I think I'm just not going to be a Space Marine player for a while. I think that they look very powerful. I love their rules. I think they're great. But like, there's going to be so many Space Marine players with how good their rules are. And my good friend Jason, who lives in Bellingham, just like 30 minutes north of me, he's coming back to 40K for 10th, and I bet he'll be my normal practice partner now because Chuck is very busy. And Jason's going to play Marines. Okay. So if my main practice partner is playing Marines, that's probably all the Marine data that I need. So I'm gonna focus on elves, and I'm gonna play elves and Genestealer Cold and Tyranids. I'm gonna play. I haven't seen Harlequins yet, but Harlequins aren't really my favorite. Never really have been. So I got 4. I've narrowed it down to 4 factions I'm gonna work on at launch weekend, Billy. Only 4. Only 4.
Well, if that fake avatar data sheet that sort of made the round. We had about 10 minutes in a chat where we were going crazy over it, and then
and it's so obviously a fake, but we were so eager to see the avatar's data sheet that we had a whole conversation before realizing how blatantly fake it was.
Yeah, if the avatar is of a similar power level to that, I love that model with a fierce dedication, and that could keep me on craft roll. But I think my starting point is going to be Marines. The rules just feel dumb.
I want him to have bodyguards. I want the avatar to not be a sole operator. I want him to have people that he walks around with, and I want it to be Wraithblade. But it's not going to be, because they're not. My understanding is they're not lore friends.
No.
But I would love it if it was Wraithguard or Wraithblades walking around with Avatar. That would be so exciting.
Right, the Farseer could make that whole unit -1 to wound, and doing that.
Yes, and well, we do know, unless the Avatar says on it you can't buff me, which seems unlikely. They have taken core away, as far as we can tell. And one of the nuances of that is that the -1 to wound aura that Farseers have, or not aura, but buff that Farseers have, can go on tanks, can go on the Avatar, can go like Phoenix Lord. You can put it on whoever you want. So to me, that's an every turn -1 to wound Avatar is what that is. If you want it,
that's spicy.
You had not noticed that, huh?
I think I put that together for a short period of time when we were discussing the fake version of it.
Yeah.
I just thinking about the Avatar. But
also, it's going to have a 4-up invul. We all know that. And you're going to have a whole bunch of 4-up dice that are just going to be sitting off the side of the table, that waiting for you to use them on the Avatar. I'm very excited. There's a lot of things falling into place that make it sound like the Avatar might be the homie that I'm waiting for.
That will pull me ahead of Marines.
Yeah, the amazing and wonderful Kim from the Oregon. Kim painted my Avatar for me, and I adore it, and he's not been to the table yet. Yeah. Okay, well, that's it for this week in 40K for what is it, May 30th. I have chores I have to do by tomorrow that I'm doing after this. That is like the sort of adulting where I feel crippled and my day is ruined. That's what it is.
I noticed.
I don't know if anybody else has gone through this, but my insurance company for homeowners and auto sent me a letter that said, "Peace out, we're done. We're not doing this anymore." And every quote I found is like a doubling, because home insurance and auto insurance in the United States is going insane. So it looks like I'm going to have to double what I'm paying for both things.
Joy.
Yeah. And by the way, I have a teenage driver and 3 cars. I was already paying enough. I don't. It's not that I wasn't paying my fair share. So, anyway, thank you guys for joining us for this week in 40K. We'll be back next week. It'll probably be the last week before we have extensive leaks. We're going to look at what the tournaments are, but pretty quick here in the next few weeks, we're going to shut down 9th edition coverage and spend the episode talking 10th. I'd like to start getting some guests in here, Billy, to talk about like I'd like to have Lucas talk about orcs.
Mhm.
This is an example. So we'll be back next week, everybody. Join us live. Remember to find us anywhere you find your podcast. Leave a review, like and subscribe. Do the things that you know matter, because it matters and it helps. Thank you, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, he's Billy and I'm Colin because someone has to be. Now, bye.
Bye.